Annie's first topic is going to be talking about Christian Wilkins. And story is kind of a story where you chase your dreams and you chase your lifetime dreams in terms of wanting to be something that you grew up thinking about throughout your life. Christian Wilkins more likely played football just like me and Isaah and Najee did when we were in Little League football. I don't know his complete background all the way back to that point, but I will say that he was one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the NFL when he finally arrived at the NFL from Clemson University. And Christian Wilkins, he chased the bag. And I don't blame him 110% bit, because at the end of the day, it's about you taking care of your personal interests in terms of what's good for you, what's good for your family, and the whole 9 yards, And so with that said, Christian Wilkins chased that bag all the way to Oakland, or should I say, I'll take that back. It's actually the Las Vegas Raiders now. Sometimes I tend to call them Oakland. That's where he started out at. So it looks like he signed a contract that was worth over $100 million. And it looks as though like he had already earned $49.7 million of the contract. But it looks like he was released, and the allegations are that Christian Wilkins was not rehabbing the way the team expected him to rehab. Now, I'm pretty sure Christian Wilkins will tell you a whole different story. He'll probably tell you, look, I did everything I was asked to do. Did everything rehab-wise they demanded that I do, and I don't understand why we have arrived at this situation where they released Christian Wilkins and then they turned around and they're trying to void out $35.2 million of his money. Now, the NFL has a union. The NFL Players Association is a union, but I come to find out that Christian Wilkins was a rep. He was a rep for the Raiders, a union rep. Now, that might not have anything to do with this at all, but since he's a union rep, and then he had a foot injury and he was trying to rehab that foot, but there was stories that he wasn't rehabbing it properly and putting in the time to rehab it. And then there was some video that showed him dancing inside of a workout room. And, it just opened up a whole Pandora's box of different assertions of what Christian Wilkins was doing and what the Raiders perceived he was doing in the whole 9 yards. But one thing I will say, Pete Carroll is a damn good coach. He's a damn good general manager. I trust Pete Carroll. And if Pete Carroll releases Christian Wilkins, to me, it has to be something a little bit deeper than what the media is putting out right now about him. Because Pete Carroll usually don't release players. I've never known him to do it. He's been with Seattle, and I don't think he released one player other than Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson asked out. Russell Wilson asked to be released. So I'm going to start out with Isaah, and I'm going to ask Isaah, do you think Christian Wilkins measured up to the standards of rehab from your perspective? Because if he did, they wouldn't be trying to void out $35 million, right?
Yeah, you really don't know. You really can't tell stuff like this. I know there's a workout regimen, and when you have trainers, they want you to be there at a specific time. Because if you got a foot injury like that, and it goes down to around your ankles and all that stuff, it has to be done properly. And properly means you got to get there at 9 o'clock if it's scheduled for 9 o'clock. You go in the whirlpool or the ice machine where they ice it real good, and they try to get flexibility into it, where they put heat and all that stuff on there, and then they'll take you to an area where you start to put weight on it and things of that sort. And it has to be done on a scale. I mean, from one thing to the next, the next, the next. That's the proper way to do a rehab. Mm-hmm. Now, if he started to skip some of that stuff, That's where they probably got the problem. Because if you don't do exactly what these trainers want, because they supposedly knows best, because these people they're not getting paid peanuts either. Those trainers are professional trainers. They're not just somebody come off the street saying, "Okay, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna stretch you." No way, man. These are people that's hired by the team. That's professional. They have degrees in this field of rehabilitation. And if he don't do what they ask him to do, that's grounds for termination, because they feel like, he's not going to do anything back and go out there and re-injure this thing, because we're embarking on a season getting ready to start again. And if they feel like that ankle or the foot's not strong enough and he's got potential chance of re-injuring this thing and he's going to be out for several games, that's exactly why they got rid of him. That's exactly why, because that way this guy be sitting on the bench collecting a check without performing on that football field. So that's the reason why they probably got rid of him.
So It looks as though here Wilkins suffered a Jones fracture in his left foot during week 5 of the 2024 season. He underwent surgery, but rehab has been described as very minimal in terms of his ability to be able to recover as fast as, I guess, the trainers or the schedule that they have him on. And these are all allegations because we haven't heard both sides of the story. One thing I will say, I have to agree with you, Isaiah, that, if you're asked to do something like that, you need to do it. I mean, you need to, whatever they have scheduled or whatever they have prepared for you in terms of a rehab process, you need to rehab it step by step by step. Because one thing I will say, that for the amount of money that he's earning in the particular career that he's in, that can go for any type of industry. That can go for any job. So Najee, tell me this. What do you think about the Raiders' perspective of this by releasing him and letting him go due to the fact that there was so-called issues of not rehabbing properly?
Well, he probably was. Hey, he could be stubborn and then do things exactly how he want to do versus anything. But I mean, what's the first thing you do when you want to cut out cancer, or you want to if somebody that's got cancer in the locker room, or somebody that just won't listen to you gotta get rid of him. Obviously, he don't have the value to the team that he thought he had. That's just point blank and simple.
Well,
that's any job.
True. And, the biggest thing is if you were working for a job and you are asked to do something and you might not even agree or you might not even want to do it, I think it would be in your best interest to do it, because if you're making the amount of money, and I'm going to just add in the amount of money that he's earning versus someone who's going to work for a minimum wage job. However, if they ask you to do something on a minimum wage job, you still need to do it if you want to keep the job, but give or take with his salary and the amount of money that he was earning, I would never put that at risk by taking the chance and not following through with certain things that I'm asked to do from an organization. Like any professional sports franchise or any type of industry, I think it's in the best interest of the person to listen and make sure that, they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. Now, who knows? The Raiders could have had someone trailing him. They could have had, it's just kind of like my assertion of it.
Well, DC, I would love to hear his side of it.
I would too. And we will.
If he's doing everything they ask him to do, then the Raiders got an issue. They got a severe problem if he's doing everything they ask him to do, because nobody can feel what you feel as a human being. A doctor could go in there and diagnose something. You could say, I got a severe headache, and he can't go in there and say, no, you don't. Because he don't know. You don't know what you're feeling. But if he's not coming in there to rehab, if they got him on a schedule for 4 hours to do certain things within that parameter of that 4 hours, and he's leaving in 2 hours, well, they got something. They got a case against him, because who in the world going to invest $100 million on a stubborn player who don't even want to rehab? The player that's really has bought into an organization, going to do everything imaginable to get better so he can get back on that football field. Now, if he's neglecting his way of getting back in, getting healthy again, that's a problem, man. Because here's the season getting ready to start within a month, less than a month, and this guy is not doing his rehabilitation properly. So that means he's going to be sitting on the sideline watching the team play while he's still trying to recoup an injury that happened last year. So I can clearly see why they want to get rid of him and then free up almost $40,000, $40,000 is free up.
Well, 40 million. I mean, because you're talking about $35.2 million that they're void now.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I mean, and that's why they cut him, because they're going to free up that money so they can perhaps get 2 players for him. And you're talking about $40 million, you can get 2 players for him. I think one thing to DC, the grass was greener on the other side. He left Miami chasing the money, and then he get over there, and I don't think he like it. So we'll see who go after him and see who's going to pay him that money that he's lacking now. See who's going to grab that contract. I haven't seen too many people going overboard to try to grab him and bring him in camp. Because one thing about it, when they see any team, any organization see a player who's not trying to get better at something, whether it's getting better at a skill or rehab an injury, they don't want you around because you actually going to be taking up a roster spot and you're not going to be producing. So they don't want you on the club, man.
Well, Christian Wilkins was no average player to be. He was above average. Actually, he was outstanding, because if you look at a man that size and his agility and his ability to be able to shed off blocks the way I used to watch him shed off blocks, but that don't mean anything. But that don't mean anything if he's not playing. Now, reverting back, he signed a $110 million contract with $82.75 million guaranteed, according to this information that I have right here.
Done half of that already.
And he was 1 year into that. So, for that to end like that, and him having all that guaranteed money, and 35 million of it they're trying to void that out. To me, it's very problematic, and it's more problematic for him than any other person, because if you think about it, he has to think about what led to this type of situation where they're trying to void the money out. They must know something that we don't know, because we're only reporting for what we see or what we read on media outlets, right?
That's why I want to see his part of it. I want to see his side of the story of it, because if he's doing everything they asked him to do, then the Raiders are going to have to pay him his money.
Oh, of course. They're going to have to pay him some of that money anyway, because I think what he's done, or if he's not already filed a grievance with the union is going to extract some of that money. I mean, he might not be able to collect all of it if, in fact, they're trying to void 35 of it. I don't know if, what the numbers look like when they having these arbitration hearings for players and teams and things of that sort, but he's going to get something. I don't think they're going to be able to just void all of that out and him walk away with nothing. I don't see it that way. What do you think about that, Najee?
Well, of course, he's going to get something, because it's going to show that he had some type of effort somewhere. So just because you didn't get the exact thing what you like, you mean to me going to just cut my money off? No, he's going to get a portion of it. He's not going to get probably nowhere near what he signed up for, but he's going to get something, bro.
I would think so. I would think so, because of the simple fact that, you sign a contract in good faith from both parties, and it has to be something really serious to want one party to try to breach a certain part of the contract, whether it's legal or whether it's not legal, right? Anytime you have a contract, you have to read that language line by line.
Yeah. Yeah, DC, I'm going to tell you one thing, too. I just hope that he's not playing a game, man, because some of these players get to the point where they don't like their position, in an organization. They'll play games with them, man. They'll claim they're hurt just because they want to get traded. So I hope that ain't what it is with this issue right here. I just hope the fact that he's hurt for real and he's doing whatever he can, and then the Raiders just want to move on for him, because it would not look good if this guy is putting on a game so he get out of there and get traded somewhere else, because most of these players has found this way of getting traded or going to another team, and perhaps say they are injured when they're not, just to get moved to another team. And this been happening, quite often, not just with football, basketball, and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, of course. It crosses all boundaries of sports, right?
Yep.
It's just not one relegated to one sport. Right. I don't think it is.
Right. It's not.
Well, he's too valuable of a player for Pete Carroll to want to get rid of him. It must be something to it, because Pete Carroll normally don't get rid of players of that type of caliber. With what I saw him in Seattle with, all of that talent level that he was in Seattle with, it's just amazing that he was able to parlay Seattle, into that type of team. When he went to the Super Bowl, they won a Super Bowl and they ended up losing a Super Bowl. One of the strong points of Pete Carroll's teams were defense, and especially defensive line. The defensive line was the nucleus of Pete Carroll's defenses. If you look at Brandon Mebane, those type of guys who played on that defense, and it's just he has some dogs on that defense, man. Them guys were rough riders. That's what they call them, the rough riders. Richard Sherman and them guys playing defensive back, and Cam Chancellor, the assassin. You couldn't ask for a better defense. So for him to want to let Christian Wilkins go, it's something really deep to it that people need to be looking into, Well,
we just got to keep our eyes on it, because I surely want to hear his side of it, not just the Raiders side of it.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear it too, and we'll keep our eyes and ears open for that. Now, let's talk a little bit about his options, or should I say other teams' options to sign Christian Wilkins, because technically, he's been let go. So if you look at his status, he's free to go anywhere he wants, technically, according to the way the contracts are laid out, in my opinion.
Okay, well,
Wouldn't you say that?
But who seemed to be interested in him? Because
I would think an array of teams would be interested in him. And let me just give you the first team that I think should show a lot of interest in him is the Miami Dolphins, the team that he left. I think the Miami Dolphins, Chris Greer needs to step up and go back and see if he can sign Christian Wilkins, I think. Now, what do you think about that, Isaiah?
It depends how he left. DC, you got to remember that stuff, man. He left here because he was chasing the bag. He got his money over there, and he might have got over there and didn't like it. He loved it here. I was really disappointed when he couldn't meet, a financial, deal with the Dolphins, because he had embedded himself in the community. He was doing a lot of outreach stuff for kids and, different programs in South Florida. And then all of a sudden he was heading out of here. And, it happens 2 or 3-fold when you got a player who make his home here and he started doing things in the community. And it's that missing void where these kids don't have that all the time, especially when he was like the face. He was the face of the defense. He was the face of the Dolphins. He was the face of a lot of projects here in South Florida, man. Every time you turn on your TV, you had seen him doing some stuff, whether it was for a bank or, a credit union or something for kids in the neighborhood. It was a lot of things that he indulged himself into. And then to see him leave, to go over to clear on the other side of the country, man, to play. And I just think the only way he leave is those numbers was nowhere in sight that he wanted. So now we got to find out what was that difference between him and the Dolphins. That way you won't even think whether the Dolphins shooting at him again. They're not going to do it, because I hadn't heard his name surface down here in South Florida for bringing him back. Now look at Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick didn't like Flores. He goes over to Pittsburgh, and the first opportunity he got to come back here, guess where he is? He's right here, and they love him. So that's the difference, DC. You got a player that left, Nobody ain't even thinking because we're not talking about him here, and then Fitzpatrick is right back here. So let's see how this thing iron itself out.
Well, on behalf of Minkah Fitzpatrick, he was traded by the Steelers in a so-called an even swap trade for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. So I don't know if Minkah Fitzpatrick would have been interested in coming back to Miami. I'm not 100% sure of that. Are you sure of that?
Well, I'm positive about it. We had a coverage on it today. He didn't like Flores. He was glad to get out of here. Flores not here no more. Guess where he is? He's back. So, man, they just covered this today.
Okay.
So that's where this thing comes from. He's glad to be back here.
Yep. Well, I'm glad he's back. I mean, because he's a hell of a safety. He's a center fielder. Yep. You can put him in the box to play the run. He's big enough to, and he's a great tackler. He covers great. So I'm happy that Minkah Fitzpatrick is back, with the Dolphins. And it looks like neither team gained much. I mean, because Jalen Ramsey's a shutdown corner, but I mean, both teams, did they really benefit from swapping these players out like that? That's the question you have to ask.
It might be an even fold. It might be an even fold. So
yeah.
You'll see how that happens once the season starts. That's when you can really tell, well, we made the right choice. It's just preliminary stuff we're talking about right now. But when that season starts, we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in 6 seasons, it looks like he had 372 career tackles and 22, or let's just say 23 sacks over Christian Wilkins' career. Back to Christian Wilkins. And I would think other teams are looking at him, the Rams, the Bears, the Browns. I would think that he's an unrestricted free agent, so he's probably free to go to the highest bidder, right? I would say.
How long is it going? Give me that timeline when they cut him, DC. When did they cut him?
The timeline for when they cut him?
Yeah, because we're talking about that. And I don't see any team just jumping out the airplane to get him. I mean, it's just not happening. When you see a guy get cut when he's hurt, there's something more to it, man. That's why I want to hear his side of the story. You know how many teams need a player like him? The way he plays, the relentless type of defensive player he is, and you don't see that many teams is out to get him, a guy who's got every intangible as a defensive player. I mean, he's fast, he's agile, he can do everything. But guess what? I'm trying to show you that it's not that many teams that's going after him, and that could be a problem. Because once a good player get released, everybody trying to get him if they think he could fit into their scheme of things. But I haven't seen anybody just saying that they want him. They mentioned something about the Cowboys, but I hadn't heard Jerry say anything about it. You got Cowboy fans saying that they want him, but Jerry hadn't said anything about it. And that's where the buck stops. When Jerry mentioned the fact that he wants him, then that means they're really looking at him, but they're not looking at him.
Mm-hmm. Looks like they released him on the 24th, which is just a couple of days ago.
Okay.
If you think about that.
The 27th.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him some time then.
So you give him a little bit of time on that, because...
Give him a week.
Yes.
I'm going to give him a week.
Najee, do you think Christian Wilkins would be a good fit for Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Because Cameron Hayward, who's Craig Ironhead Hayward's son, he's a good defensive tackle. He's been with the Steelers forever. If you bring in Christian Wilkins, man, that Steelers defense will improve immensely, even though they're super good right now, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah. So these are teams that you think he should go to. That's the difference.
Right.
You're talking about teams that you think he should go to.
Correct.
Let's see how many teams that
from the economic standpoint of view, that these NFL teams are looking at the economic standpoint of view and his situation, like you said, Isaiah. That's true.
But it also helps them. It helps the franchises when it comes to if they do want to sign them, because now guess what? By you getting released by a team, The average is showing your value. It's not what the player thinks it is. So yeah, you saying you trying to get 25, right?
Yeah.
Nah, you just got cut by your team, so we're gonna offer you 18. You don't want the 18, and you know what? You can try another team then. See if you get something else. Next thing you know, you get low ball. It's a 16. Oh,
Yes.
nah, I gotta settle for the 18 then.
Well, that's a Latrell Sprewell story for me. You remember Latrell Sprewell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I remember that hothead.
And how Latrell Sprewell took offense to when they made him an offer, and he said, "Look, man, I got to feed my family."
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's thinking back to those times when he said that, because that was that was a competitive contract, I think, that they offered him, but I guess he felt like his value was much more than that at the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll cover this and we'll keep everybody up to speed on.
You've reached the end of another episode of the DC Stewart Sports Talk podcast. Be sure to connect with us at Facebook and Twitter.com. Your voice is important, so head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Catch our next episode.